And welcome back to Map the Maze. Happy 2025. If you are here because you are starting or are in the middle of your divorce and separation journey, then I'm sorry. But if you are here because you want to learn how to do things better, how to use mediation more effectively, then I applaud you because that is a brave choice. It's not easy to do these things. From my perspective, it's still better than the alternative, still not easy. So today I wanted to share top 5 things that I think will make a difference to your divorce mediation. The first one, find ways to manage emotions. Second, get support. I'm going to talk about what that means. Reflect on your priorities. Practice. You have to give to get and get to give. And remember, it's not forever. So let me talk about those. The first one is find ways to manage emotions. The reason is because I'm not saying the emotions that you're feeling are not valid, are not justified, are not real. That is not what I'm saying. The challenge is that when we are deep into our emotions, particularly emotions like anger, bitterness, sadness, it can severely impact how you negotiate in a mediation. So, for example, if people are really sad, generally their energy is very low. It's difficult for them to contemplate moving forward. It's difficult for them to contemplate making a decision. And so decisions tend to not happen if people are really sad. If people are really angry, they can make decisions which feel as if they're wise decisions, but they can be based around a need to punish the other person, to make them suffer. And so they can derail negotiations because actually maybe they're not reasonable expectations that are being made, proposals that are being made, or maybe reasonable proposals are being rejected because the anger is saying that's not enough punishment. When you come to divorce mediation, you really need to be thinking about how do I stay focused? How do I make a wise decision? And that might mean you don't come until you're ready, until you have processed some of the emotions that you're feeling. Second, get support. This is not easy. I would say that divorce mediation is a team sport in the sense that you will need legal advice. Mediators are not able to give legal advice, and you definitely need independent legal advice. There's no point having your other partner, your former partner, say, oh, but my lawyer says this makes sense. That makes sense for them, and they're getting advice from their advocate. So you can't rely on the other person's legal advice. You can listen to it and it can be helpful and it may even be correct, but you need to make sure that you have independent legal advice. Family law is not, in general, intuitive. And so it's very rare that people come and apply common sense, and that's what a judge would do. So understanding your legal rights, the limits of that, what are reasonable expectations, really important. Because at the end of the day, if you can't negotiate the solution in mediation, then the chances are you will go to court. And so there's no point in blowing up a negotiation by saying, I want a pony in a castle, if the reality is you'll never get a pony in a castle in court. So getting that legal advice is really important. The second aspect is professional mental health support. This is probably, for most of the clients that I've worked with, one of the most traumatic experiences of their life. It's way up there on the stress scale in terms of top 3 stressful things that can happen to a person. And the challenge is that if you rely on family and friends, they love you, they want the best for you, and they may become very partisan when you're talking to them. So you may not be getting reasonable feedback. You may not be getting feedback that's in context. So working with a mental health professional can be really helpful to address things like managing emotions. They can give you tools. They can help you work through the emotions. They can help you process in a way that's more structured and more focused on getting you to a place where you are emotionally and psychologically ready to negotiate. Third one is reflect on your priorities. It's really difficult because when I work with people, they have lots of different wants, needs, preferences. And that's absolutely fine. I don't have a problem with that. The challenge is your wants, needs, preferences are going to need to find a way to match with the other person's wants, needs, and preferences in order to get an agreement. And so one of the challenges is some of those things are going to have to budge. some of those wants, needs, and preferences are going to have to be compromised on in order to get an agreement. And if you haven't thought about what are my priorities, then it's very difficult to make that decision. So that takes reflection, that takes some thinking space. So, what I would say is if you are going into your divorce mediation, make sure that you have thought about what are the priorities? What is it that I absolutely need to achieve? And what are some of the things that I can compromise on? Because even though I want them, they're not going to really change things for me. But these are the things that are really important. And at the same time, you need to be thinking about what are the priorities for the other person. So you will know this person better than the mediator ever will. You have the best insight into how to negotiate with them. May not feel like that, but you do. Number four, practicing. Give to get and get to give. This is really hard for a lot of the people that I work with, that by the time they get to the divorce mediation and they're trying to negotiate, it's difficult to practice that kind of this is a two-way street because of what's happened, because of the bad behavior, because of the crisis, because of the emotions. The two-way street feels very one way. And so sometimes people really want to punish the other person because they think they deserve to be punished, and that because of what they've done, it's so reprehensible that therefore they should get more in the mediation, whatever more means. And then conversely, I have people who are ashamed of what they've done, who feel guilt about the end of the relationship. And so they will try and find ways to give too much in the negotiation, which means that it's really unbalanced. And the risk with that is that at the time, they may feel guilty, they may feel ashamed, they may feel like they want to have an unbalanced settlement. But 6 months down the track, that may not be the same. People may revise, they may feel less guilty, they may feel less ashamed, they may have processed more about what happened for the relationship to end. And what you don't want is for agreements to be unstable. You don't want agreements to be non-durable. So one of the things we're trying to do is make agreements that will last. And what I don't want is people to make decisions that are rash, that are based on feelings, emotions that are going to change. And what people need to understand is if you want to receive something that's to your benefit in the mediation negotiation, you're going to need to give something that's of benefit to the other person, and vice versa. That sometimes people will just give things in the negotiation and expect that there will be a brownie point for them later down the track. That doesn't happen. If you want to get something or get a benefit because you think you're giving something up, then you need to say it. You need to be explicit. You need to say, if I'm willing to do this, are you willing to do that? You need to say it. And the last one is a hard one because these feelings are so strong. They're very powerful. They're overwhelming. And for a lot of the people that I work with, they come as tidal waves. You'll have some good days, some bad days, and you think you've got some good days, and you're like, okay, I'm over, I'm processed, I'm working through. And then the bad days hit. And it can seem like you're back at the start. But the reality is, this too shall pass. These feelings, this process, the divorce, arrangements and negotiations and working with lawyers doesn't last forever. Eventually, it will be done. And what you need to think of is that future state, to envisage that future state, to have it as a goal, to get there as painlessly, peacefully, respectfully as possible. Because if you can do that, getting to that future state becomes easier. Okay, so that's my top five for divorce mediation. I've got lots of things that I'm hoping to share with you this year, and I look forward to talking with you and also interviewing some people who work in this area to talk about divorce mediation and some of the aspects from their particular experience or careers. So take care, and I'll see you next week.